In Gaza, waiting for food is not just a daily routine, it's a test of endurance and hope. Each morning, thousands of people gather in long lines, hoping that today there will be enough to go around. For many, this simple act can mean risking your life. The threat of violence is ever present, and the fear in the air is palpable as people wait, uncertain if they will return home safely. The ongoing conflict has shattered lives, leaving families homeless, hungry, and living in constant fear. Streets once filled with laughter are now lined with rubble and sorrow. Imagine mothers, fathers, and children standing for hours, clutching empty bags, hoping for a small bag of flour or a bottle of water, just enough to keep their families alive for another day. These are ordinary people, teachers, shopkeepers, students, caught in a relentless war they did not choose. Their only wish is to live in peace and safety. The violence escalated dramatically after the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. Israel's military response has turned daily life into a struggle for survival, creating a dire humanitarian crisis that grows worse with each passing day. Children, the most vulnerable, have lost not only their homes and schools, but also their sense of safety and the comfort of loved ones. Their childhoods have been stolen by the sounds of war. Every day is a struggle for the basics: clean water, food, and a safe place to sleep. Even these simple needs have become luxuries in Gaza. Recently, tragedy struck when people waiting for aid were met with violence instead of help. In a moment meant for relief, chaos and fear took over, leaving many injured and families torn apart. This heartbreaking event shocked the world, shining a harsh light on the desperation and danger that Gaza's civilians face every single day. It's a stark reminder that in war, it is always the innocent who suffer the most. Their pain and loss are often hidden behind headlines and statistics. Behind every news story are real people, families with dreams, children with hopes for the future, and parents longing for peace. They are not just numbers, they are lives interrupted. Their suffering demands our attention, our empathy, and our action. The world cannot look away from their pain. We must listen to their voices, honor their resilience, and work together to seek a path toward healing, justice, and lasting peace for Gaza. On a day meant for relief, tragedy struck Gaza's hungry families. Crowds gathered for humanitarian aid, food and medicine that mean survival. Suddenly, gunfire erupted. Israeli forces opened fire on the waiting crowd. Over 90 people died in the chaos, turning hope into horror. These were civilians, not fighters, just people desperate for food. The world was shocked by the images. A place of hope became a scene of bloodshed. This tragedy raised urgent questions about protecting civilians and the rules of war. Delivering aid in Gaza has become dangerous for both helpers and those in need. Each life lost was a story cut short, a family shattered. The world must demand better protection for the innocent. The deaths in that queue are a call for urgent action and accountability. News of the tragedy quickly spread across the globe, reaching the highest levels of government and sparking immediate responses from world leaders. Among those who responded was former U.S. President Donald Trump, whose words carried significant weight given his influence on international affairs and his history in the region. Through his spokesperson, Trump conveyed a deep sense of anger and profound sadness at the violence that had unfolded, emphasizing the human cost of the conflict. He was especially shaken by the harrowing images of starving women and children in Gaza, scenes that underscored the devastating humanitarian crisis and the urgent need for relief. Trump called for an immediate end to the killings, urging all parties to agree to a ceasefire and allow humanitarian aid to reach those in desperate need. His reaction was particularly notable, given his long-standing reputation as a strong supporter of Israel and his close relationships with Israeli leaders during his presidency. Yet even the closest allies can find themselves compelled to speak out when innocent lives are lost, showing that compassion can transcend political alliances. Trump's statement added to the mounting pressure on global leaders, intensifying calls for a peaceful resolution and a renewed commitment to diplomacy. His remarks were widely covered in the media, sparking debate and prompting both criticism and praise from different corners of the political spectrum. By positioning himself as a potential peacemaker, Trump called for renewed negotiations, suggesting that dialogue was the only path forward. While opinions on his approach varied, his response echoed the outrage and heartbreak felt by millions around the world, uniting people in a shared demand for justice. The tragedy brought together people from all walks of life, crossing political and cultural boundaries in a collective call for peace and an end to suffering. Trump's call for a ceasefire highlighted the urgent need to protect civilians, especially the most vulnerable, and to prioritize humanitarian efforts above all else. As the world watches, the demand for change grows louder, reminding leaders everywhere that the eyes of humanity are upon them, waiting for action and hope. Trump's response to the crisis was not just one of outrage or condemnation. He took the opportunity to lay out a vision for what he believed were the essential steps toward peace in the region. He emphasized two main objectives that, in his view, could help bring an end to the suffering and violence. The first and most urgent demand was the immediate release of all hostages who had been taken from Israel. For Trump, this was not just a political point, it was a deeply personal and humanitarian plea, echoing the anguish of families who have been waiting for any sign of their loved ones. The pain and uncertainty faced by these families is unimaginable. Every day that passes without news is another day of heartbreak, and their stories have become a symbol of the broader human cost of the conflict. The second goal Trump outlined was the urgent need for humanitarian aid to reach Gaza's civilians. He stressed that this aid must be protected from diversion by Hamas, ensuring it actually reaches those who need it most: innocent families, children, and the elderly caught in the crossfire. Delivering aid in a war zone is never simple. Convoys face dangerous roads, damaged infrastructure, and the constant threat of renewed violence. Yet for many, this aid is a lifeline, providing food, water, and medical supplies in desperate times. In a significant development, Trump announced that Israel had agreed to a 60-day ceasefire, a move he hoped would open the door to further negotiations. He called on Hamas to accept the deal and bring an end to the war, urging both sides to seize this chance for peace. But as history has shown, peace is never straightforward. Israel did not immediately confirm the agreement, and Hamas responded with demands for a permanent end to hostilities, highlighting the deep mistrust and complex conditions that remain. Palestinian officials pointed out that the proposal was similar to previous offers that had already been rejected, suggesting that real progress would require new thinking and genuine compromise from all parties. The details of any agreement remain major obstacles. Even when both sides express a willingness to talk, issues like security, sovereignty, and justice for victims continue to divide them. Achieving peace is about more than just agreeing to a ceasefire. It requires building trust, addressing the root causes of the conflict, and making difficult compromises that can satisfy both sides' core concerns. The path forward is fraught with mistrust, competing demands, and the scars of decades of violence. Each side fears giving up too much, and every step is watched closely by a world hoping for a breakthrough. Still, the international push for the release of hostages and the safe delivery of humanitarian aid remains a crucial step, one that could help build momentum for a broader peace if leaders are willing to act. As the world watches and waits, the hope for real progress endures, even in the face of daunting challenges. Every leader brings their own peace plan to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Trump's proposal centers on expanding the Abraham Accords, normalizing ties between Israel and Arab states. He believes ending the Gaza war is key to broader Middle East peace. Critics argue his plan favors Israel and neglects Palestinian rights. True peace requires fairness and respect for both sides' needs. One controversial idea linked to Trump's plan is the forced displacement of Gazans, widely condemned as ethnic cleansing. The UN and many nations say such actions violate international law. For Palestinians, forced removal is a source of deep fear and anger. Saudi Arabia and others refuse normalization with Israel while Palestinians suffer. Any real peace must address Palestinian statehood, rights, and justice, not just diplomatic deals. Ignoring these issues risks fueling future conflict. To grasp the tragedy in Gaza, we must see daily life there. Over 2 million people are crammed into a tiny, overcrowded strip of land. Most have been displaced, living in tents or shelters with little privacy or comfort. Clean water is scarce, leading to disease and suffering. Food shortages are severe. Children face starvation. Hospitals are overwhelmed, lacking fuel, medicine, and basic supplies. Doctors work in impossible conditions, trying to save lives with almost nothing. Homes and public buildings are destroyed. Nowhere is truly safe. Humanitarian aid is a lifeline, but even reaching it is dangerous. People risk their lives for a bag of flour or a bottle of water. The suffering touches every aspect of life, from morning to night. Gaza's crisis is a daily struggle for survival. The world has not ignored Gaza's suffering. Leaders, organizations, and ordinary people have condemned the violence and called for action. Palestinian officials have pleaded with the EU to stop what they call genocide and starvation. Human rights groups accuse Israel of war crimes and demand investigations. Protests have erupted worldwide, with people demanding a ceasefire and justice. Yet, the international response is divided. Some back Israel's right to defend itself. Others demand protection for Palestinians. Political interests often block unified action at the UN. Still, the global call for peace and aid grows louder. The world's conscience is stirred by Gaza's plight. The demand for action and accountability cannot be ignored. Gaza's tragedy is part of a wider, complex conflict. The fighting has spilled into Lebanon, with Israeli strikes killing Hamas leaders. Regional groups like Yemen's Houthis attack ships, disrupting global trade. The West Bank has seen a surge in settler violence against Palestinians. Over 2,000 attacks were reported in early 2025 alone. These events deepen fear and make peace seem distant. The core issues, land, rights, and occupation, remain unresolved. Hostages, humanitarian crises, and regional violence are all connected. A ceasefire in Gaza is only a first step. Lasting peace requires addressing every part of this tangled conflict. Amid so much pain, hope is hard but necessary. The tragedy in Gaza shows the urgent need for peace. We've seen leaders react, people suffer, and the world demand change. Real peace must be fair to both Israelis and Palestinians. Ignoring one side's needs only fuels future conflict. Global voices, leaders, activists, citizens are calling for an end to the violence. Our shared humanity must overcome political divisions. We must keep speaking out for aid, protection, and a just peace. The children of Gaza and Israel deserve a future free from fear. It's our responsibility to work for that future, where no one dies waiting for bread.